All right, so this is gonna be a bit of a rant video about a certain fighter, a fighter you see here on this screen, Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman, who is like 0-3 in his last three fights, 1-4 in his last five, hasn't won a fight since 2021. His last win was Colby Covington, which is kind of embarrassing. I mean, that win aged like milk. Because look at Colby Covington now. Colby Covington's on a skid. Colby's last win was a retired, washed Jorge Masvidal, which also ain't a good win because Masvidal got like double-digit losses. I mean, Usman's last two wins age like milk. Let's just say that. Usman doesn't have a win over like this current new era of the welterweight division. And he's sitting on his ranking and he's not fighting. His last fight was literally in October 2023 against Khamzat Chimaev, 9 days notice. And he's not fought since then. 2024 is almost over. All the fight cards have all wrapped up. They're all done. So he can't fight again this year, even if he wanted to. He's got to fight again next year. But the problem is, Usman has had chances to fight again this year. But he's choosing not to. It's like he got this like overconfidence from putting up a good effort against Khamzat Chimaev, coming close to beating him, no cigar. And because of that, he's like, yeah, I'm Usman. I won round 3 against Khamzat. So I don't really have to fight anyone. I can just take my time. I'm the former champ. I'm the number 2 contender. So I don't have to fight anybody. And it's just frustrating because he should have fought Ian Gary in December 14th in Tampa. But then again, Bilal pulled out of UFC 310. And Machado was always going to step in to fight Shavkat either way. So then maybe it would have been Usman versus Buckley, but at least Usman would have at least had a fight in there by now. But he turned down a fight with Ian Gary. I don't know if it was offered, but Ian said that Usman declined it. Usman was talking all that mess like he was going to actually step up and save UFC 310 against Shavkat, even though they wouldn't have made that fight the main event or for a belt. So the card didn't really need saving, but he was saying that he was willing to step in and fight Shavkat Rakhmonov on like 4 weeks' notice. And then all of a sudden, he literally backtracks his statement and is like, actually, nah, I don't want to fight him. I need a full camp to prepare for him. And what pisses me off about that, him saying that I see holes in his game, but I can only exploit them with a full camp. And I'm not doing a half a camp thing this time. First of all, against Khamzat Chimaev, you literally had 9 days notice to prepare for Khamzat. For Shavkat, you would have at least had 3 to 2 weeks. You would have had more prep time. And this is the same guy who was complaining about not having 5 rounds to work with on short notice against Khamzat. Your fight with Rakhmonov was going to be a 5-round non-title fight essentially in the co-main, the Pantoja versus Asakura. So you would have had 5 rounds to work with against Shavkat. So why couldn't you have stepped in to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov? I don't understand. And also, Shavkat Rakhmonov was injured. He tore his MCL ahead of UFC 310. And with how he looked in that fight against Machado, even though styles make fights and Ian is Ian, maybe he would have looked better if Bilal was standing across from him, or even if Usman took the fight with him. But still, December 7th, 2024, Usman, that could have been your chance to take an O from another undefeated fighter. You failed to take Khamzat's O. Maybe you could have took Shavkat's O, and you could have been in a position to fight for the title against Bilal in the first quarter of 2025, but you wasted that opportunity. For whatever reason, you didn't want to fight Ian Gary. I don't understand why. And for no reason, you're basically sitting on your ranking for a whole year. Okay, now Usman's not number 2, he's number 3. For the past year, he's like the number one, number two guy in the division. Became number two once Leon lost his championship. Now Leon's number one. Before Ratmanov beat Ian, he was like number three. Usman was number two. But Usman could have been fighting in this time off. He could have been using this time wisely. Like, okay, maybe he could have taken a year after the Khamzat fight. Fair play. But to take off 2024 entirely, I don't understand. And now I'm hearing Jack Della Maddalena is not fighting at UFC 312 because of Kamaru Usman. The fight is not happening. And I'm hearing it's Usman's fault. Now, they could have kept JDM on this card and maybe given JDM Joaquin Buckley, since Buckley always does quick turnarounds. He's like always active. He'll always like take short notice fights, short notice opportunities and whatnot. But okay, there's not going to have JDM on this card at all. Wow, that sucks. I mean, maybe they can do JDM versus Leon Edwards then in London. But if it's true that Kamaru Usman turned down JDM after turning down Shavkat and turning down Ian Gary, this is just embarrassing of Kamaru Usman. And then, if this statement couldn't be any more cringe, Usman's response to Buckley's call out, even though he actually said he likes the call out, he likes that fight, so maybe that will be the next fight. He says, I feel like the hot chick at the bar, and everyone wants a piece of me. Like, this is what he said, the full quote: I feel like the hot chick in the bar, everybody wants a piece. That's what Usman said in the Pound for Pound podcast. And he's like, it's almost like no one's listening to what I'm saying. No one's getting what I'm saying. I don't care who it is. Shavkat, Bilal, Ian, Buckley, JDM, who you turned down for Perth, or Sydney, wherever in Australia it is. I don't care who it is. One thing I won't do, because I've done it for so long, too much, which is partially why I've been having to take this layoff, is to compete when I'm not ready. That's what he did. He said he spent most of his career competing when not healthy. He says, when I'm healthy, I don't care who it is. Yeah, but Usman, the problem is, nobody in the octagon ever shows up 100% healthy. Everyone fights injured to some capacity. No one has a perfect training camp where they're unscathed. So you can go through a full training camp for whoever your next opponent is going to be. You're going to have some minor injury. And then what? You're going to pull out of the fight because of it? Like, come on, man. That's like no excuse. I get Usman. He's trying to take his time. He wants to make sure he's ready. But how much more time do you need, bro? Like, honestly, like, Usman literally went from the guy. Do you remember in 2019 when this guy was doing so much complaining that nobody wanted to fight him? Remember? I'm a problem. Nobody wanted to fight the Nigerian nightmare Kamaru Usman because he was a self-proclaimed problem, which he was a problem in his prime on the come up. But he was like, yeah, no one wants to fight me. He was frustrated that people were turning down fights against him. But now Usman is doing everything he complained about like 5 to 6 years ago. He was in the position as the dark horse who nobody wanted to fight, to now the former champion and veteran and top 3 contender who now everybody wants to fight. Bro, this is a golden opportunity for you, Kamaru. You of 2018 will be like salivating, chopping at the bid. You'd be like, oh my gosh, everyone in the future wants to fight me. And now here we are, 6 to 5 years later, and you're not taking this opportunity that's granted to you. You're turning down all these fights, and you're sitting on your ranking. It's just ridiculous. Like, the only nightmare, you call yourself the Nigerian nightmare, you call yourself a problem. The only nightmare is you sitting on your ranking and turning down all these fights and taking your sweet ass time. The only problem, same thing. You didn't take the fight with Ian for UFC Tampa. You didn't step in to take on Shavkat Rakhmonov on 3 weeks' notice when you were the same guy who complained about not having 5 rounds against Khamzat on short notice. You were gonna get given 5 rounds against Shavkat on short notice with a little more time, and you said no. And you arguably could have got the worst version of Shavkat and maybe won. And again, you wasted that opportunity. And now by the time you come back, it'll almost be like 2 years, a year and a half to 2 years since your last fight. You're not getting any younger. You're literally 37 years old. You're pushing 40, yo. You're going to be like 38 in May. Like, dude, come on. You got to get active. You cannot be inactive at this age. I mean, look at what happened to Colby. Colby wasted a majority of his prime taking 2 years between fights for gimmick fights and waiting for title shots. Now look at him. I don't think Usman, when he comes back, is going to be as worse off as Colby, but I don't know if he's going to be able to compete to the same level that he was able to, when he was the pound for pound number one, when he was the world champion. Like, who does Usman beat currently in the top 10, top 5? Like, I don't think he's beating Shavkat. If they offer that to him now on a full camp, where Shavkat is going to probably be healthier and better going forward, he's not winning that. I don't think he beats Bilal. I don't think he beats Leon in a quadrilogy. I don't think he could beat Jack Della Maddalena, but that's a dangerous fight. I would pick JDM at this point. I think he could beat Sean Brady because Brady has no real threat with his striking. It's a wrestler versus wrestler matchup. Wrestling cancels each other out. Usman could outstrike him. So I'm going to say Usman beats Brady. Buckley probably beats him at this point. Ian Gary for sure beats Kamaru Usman the same way Leon did in that trilogy. The only other guys I see Usman beating are like the old vets like Gilbert Burns, Colby. He could Jeff Neal's kind of risky. He could probably beat Neal though. He definitely beats Stephen Thompson. But guys like past Wonder Boy, except for MVP and Luke are dangerous fights like Prates, Michael Morales. And then the only guy I see him beating in like the top 5 is Sean Brady. And the longer he lingers around and takes his time, I think the worse off he's gonna be. So Usman, you gotta hurry up, bro. The clock is ticking. Get off your high horse. Get off your ass. If you're not gonna fight JDM in February, in Australia, then fight him or fight somebody in March. No later than that. Like, come on, man. What the hell are you doing? What the hell are you waiting for, bro? You gotta get active. You went from having one of your most active years in 2021. You fought twice in 2023 and you fought nonce in 2024. You gotta get going, bro. But I mean, look, I'm a fan of Usman, okay? Me saying what I'm saying in this video is not because I'm hating on Usman. I like Kamaru Usman. I'm an Usman fanboy. I've been an Usman glazer since 2018, okay? When this guy was the champion and in his early champ stages, when he was underappreciated and people were complaining about him saying, oh, he's boring. Like before he won respect from knocking out Masvidal, I was one of the few select people in the minority who appreciated him. I knew this guy would be champion for a long time. I literally picked him in every single fight in his UFC career, except for Woodley. And then, of course, I picked Khamzat to beat him. But before his post-championship run, I only picked Woodley to beat him. I picked him against Colby twice, Burns, Masvidal, even Leon Edwards in the second and third fight. I knew this guy was going to be a force, okay? I've been on the Usman train, but sometimes, even as a fan, we gotta be brutally honest with our favorite fighters. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe, and peace out.